To be honest, I haven't looked at much into it.
Con
I'm still learning.
Convention of States.
Yeah. So my take on convention of states, if the states are going about it the right way, then it's a good thing. But I don't think we have enough states that are actually conservative enough to be able to form the convention of states the right way. That's my take on it.
Well, and so that has been the problem, right?
Yeah.
They have been at a standstill at 20 something states for a while. We know that 25 states have signed on in support of Governor Abbott in Texas and protecting their border, the state border. So we know at least 25 states, which it does require 2/3 of the states. So if my math serves me, that's probably somewhere around 32, if I'm correct, right? Is
Yeah.
that 2/3?
I
50
think
divided
30,
by,
34, maybe. So I
yeah.
remember I used to know it. It was, I think, 32 or 34, I think is what the
And and
plurality
and
is.
s- and so that's what it's going to take if we are going to get the Convention of States, the Article 5, the ability for we the people, because it truly is a grassroots movement. And I say grassroots, and I know that, like conservative, grassroots is used by everybody and anybody anymore. And it doesn't truly necessarily mean what we think it means. When people can just slap a title onto themselves, they they will do it.
Yeah.
So you know what? I just realized real quick, I got to do some promo for myself here and make sure that I get my little thing
Oh, there
scrolling
you go.
across the bottom, which I did ask you the question, Ryan. So, how do people get to look at the Ryan Mac show? I think it's
Um,
important.
Facebook, YouTube. I'm on Rumble. I can share all that in the comment section too.
Yeah, please do. I want you so you can type
I'm in
while
the
I'm talking.
process of getting my own website. I had one link to it, and then I didn't like the layout of it, so I'm building a new one so that it's all in one place. So eventually, it's going to be the RyanMacShow.com is going to be the link to it. I haven't published it yet for sure.
Hey Ryan, what inspired you to start doing your own podcast?
Um, Part of it's common sense.
Well,
Um,
imagine that. I kind of knew the answer. That's why I asked the question.
so I
Like any
think
good talk show host, right? Or any
I
good
know, right?
on-air talent.
Um, I think I sat by and listened to all the favorites that I listened to, and then I watched the left kind of just pull the plug on streaming platforms that they didn't like. You had Amazon and Google web hosting services canceling platforms. And I know that I'm not Dan Bongino or Glenn Beck, but I wanted to be kind of another voice
Yeah,
in the
let's
bank.
not say yeah.
And
They
that's
didn't start out the top, Ryan.
yeah, yeah. And it took them maybe 10, 20 years to kind of build their platform out, but I'm not doing it for publicity or anything like that. I'm doing it simply to be another voice in the bank, for the right, because the left has voices everywhere and they're screechy, they're loud, they claw their faces off. And even if I reach 5 people, that's 5 more than I could have a year ago.
Exactly. That's interesting. You said that in the cancel culture and how the left, the progressive left, or the regressive left,
Yeah.
what they call progress, which I don't see progress happening in our nation, nor do I see it happening around the world. We know unequivocally we have the means, the God-given means to feed every person, every mouth in the world. There should be nothing, no hunger. There
Yeah.
should be nothing like that. I mean, we should have an educated society. People should live in a land of plenty. But what happens is greed and progressives. See,
Yep.
because in a world where people are equal, taken care of, standing together, whether it just is not our nation but other nations, um, you truly balance things out. I'm not talking about distribution of wealth.
Right.
I'm talking about stopping the process of limiting people's abilities to exercise their free will and to control power, to be a centralized means of power. That's what the left is. And And with this progressive movement, and the censorship and the control of everything, which is counterintuitive to common sense. You and I know that. We see them operate as they do, and we know that this is just bizarro. An example of that, and this one was shared with me, is Adam Niemer. I don't know if you're familiar with who Adam is.
Yeah.
State representative. Well,
Yeah.
Adam had a little problem with his filing, and it had to do with his notary,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I've seen that
And
recently.
and he was removed from the ballot.
Right.
So, and of course, the Illinois Education Association, the IEA, is always sensitive to things like that, and they quickly made sure that they had a candidate to put up against
Of course.
Adam, someone who claims to be a Republican, but yet takes money from the teachers union.
Mhm.
But they're running, and so Adams, he has launched an write-in candidacy. So he's the incumbent, having to write in because he was kicked off the ballot.
Right.
Once again, censorship of the right, censorship of those of us who are conservative. And yet Joe Biden violated the same rule when it comes to the statue of a notary. And
Yeah.
it was brought to the attention, and he's going to remain on the ballot in Illinois.
Imagine that.
And so when I say counterintuitive, common sense and logic, how does a free thinking, rational person not view that and come to the conclusion that we have two rules for me, but not rules for thee?
Yeah.
They're willing to kick off a state representative because of a violation of statute. And now hey, if Adam Niemer, for whatever reason, wasn't aware of a statue and made a mistake,
Right.
that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But it should also apply to Joe Biden.
Yeah. Well, and
You
we've
know?
we've seen that where we live in a two-tiered justice system. We live in a system which you can get away with murder on one side, and you will be locked up for simply saying something that you don't agree with on the other side. So that's really where we're at. Common sense is out the window with the left. They will imprison their political opponents for simply just breathing.
Well, and they'll go to such great lengths, right? And
Oh yeah,
and as I said, there's nothing new under the sun. That was Thursday's episode. I have to stop myself. I've always been someone who says, gosh, do you hear how many times those people use interrupters like or okay? So if I start on that, give me a gong or a buzz, put that over in the comment section saying,
yeah,
geez, David, you're umming a lot today. Well, umming is not what I like to do, so I won't do that. But Ryan, that's the essence of it is if there is nothing new under the sun, and we're going to continue to see more in 2024, whether it be denying presidential immunity to President Trump, whether it is a total flooding the zone of the southern border, which unfortunately, I don't know if you saw the video, or I should say, fortunately, I didn't say unfortunately. Fortunately, if you saw the video with Darren Bailey, he's
yeah,
down there right now at Eagle
yep,
Pass. He said there's a whole new sheriff in town now that Texas, with the 25 other states supporting the support coming from the other 25 states in so many different means, one
yeah,
being support troops. Governor DeSantis has sent the National Guard, so there's reinforcements being sent, and they are stating, they are marking the line on the border saying, don't cross. We are a sovereign nation. We have a border. You're not going to just access this. This isn't what is being put forth right now by Kristen Sinema of the United States Senate, who believes that
mhm,
she's got a solution to which is basically amnesty and just allowing people to be here in our country that we have no idea through the vetting process of who they are. Those numbers range from 25% of those currently invading our country are not here. They're here not only illegally, but they're also criminals.
Yeah. Well, the common sense prevailing, right? Think about this. You have what the old saying was, if Texas fell, so would the country, right? That's kind of been the theme right now. If we lose Texas, that goes our republic. Texas is the line in the sand. If we don't hold Texas, the rest of the country is going to just cave in. I really believe that. Now I know they have their own problems within their own state and party, but as a whole, if you don't hold Texas as the line across, to for immigration inflow, then
Well, the
where are you
largest
as a
border,
country?
right?
Yeah,
It's the largest when you talk about the border. It controls more of the border, our southern border, than any other state.
right.
Arizona, and then New Mexico, and California.
Yeah,
But Texas is the last stand, right? Remember the
yeah.
Alamo.
And now they
I mean,
now they're leaving Texas border to go across the Arizona border because they're not doing anything about it, right? So Texas is holding strong. Where's Arizona at? You have a
well, and
Democrat
that's
governor now. Is she gonna hold the line too?
well, and that's what Carrie Lake was trying to emphasize, especially now that she's running for United States Senate. She has said this is a problem that's going to continue to come to Arizona. We're going to see it in Arizona. We're going to see it in any border state. It just isn't going to stop. It's just as bad as it can be. Uh, Today, as we saw pointed out by my friend Darren Bailey, um, and he mentioned that he said now that they've stopped it in this particular congressional district, which happens to be, I think it's Congressional District 22 of Texas, then it's going to move. Thank you. There you go. Putting that
Yep.
into it. I so do appreciate that. I just sometimes I have to clean up here the chat. Oh,
It's probably
lem-
one of my followers. He's from Kev, Oklahoma
okay. I
Chicken
was
Cam.
I was
Yeah.
wondering. You got to follow our Oklahoma Chicken Cam. I got it.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
good. I'm glad to see they're chiming in.
Yeah.
I'd hate to block it, but I like the name of it, Oklahoma Chicken
Yeah.
Cam.
I know, right?
Now, Ryan, I'm going to digress here because I'm glad that came up. Um, I'm thinking about venturing into chickens. Do you know anything about chickens?
They're really tasty. I know about that much.
I do believe they're good eating. Have you ever considered raising chickens and
Actually,
having
I
them?
have at one point. The cost of food prices and eggs keep soaring. I might just throw a chicken coop back in my backyard.
Well, my wife, if you ask my wife what she wants to do in retirement, and she will tell you, besides going back to doing what is her I believe it's her passion. It's writing. She's 3 times best-selling author.
I need
Uh,
I need her help with that because I've got a book that I want to write and I need her help. So I'll
well,
probably have to reach out to her.
you'll have to reach out to her. She's usually good about giving advice on that because she did it, just at a time in her life when she felt she needed something else. And she started writing, and one book turned into 2, turned into 3. Now, 12 books later,
That's
she's
awesome.
currently on the uh, cusp of writing 2 more, which I think are going to be her best books yet. Best. They're going to be the best-selling books that she has. But she wants to go back to writing here after she finishes her 35 years of teaching.
Mm,
Uh,
more power to her. 35 years. I don't know if I could do it.
No, I don't know how anybody can do it. In fact, that's another show in of itself,
Yeah.
and deals with common sense. Who in their right mind, and I'm not talking about my beautiful wife, because she only had to do 35. If you entered teaching today, Ryan, and you are working in a school
Yeah.
system right now,
Yep.
if you are the tier 3, tier 2 teachers, you have to put 45 years in to
Mhm.
teach. 45 years.
That's
I don't know
insane.
about you, 45 years of teaching elementary school?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody can withstand that type of pressure.
That
I'm
punishment.
sure no, I mean, how do you make it through that? And so, but let me let me go back. And that is a whole show because you talk about common sense. That has no logic.
Yeah.
How will you ever be able to recruit quality people into our public school system if you tell them that in order to reach full retirement and to get their pension, they have to go 45 years?
Can you imagine telling Gen Z that right now? They can't even get through 40 hours. Let alone telling them they gotta get 45 years in. Oh my god, their heads will explode.
You took it right out of my mouth. You took it right out of my mouth. Thanks for the shout out. Yeah, by the way, the eggs and chickens are both tasty. You're right, Oklahoma Chicken Camp. I appreciate that. I do want to get back to the chickens, but Ryan, you hit it. I'm going to tell you, this is a fascinating world. I gave a little bit of inside baseball to the company that I'm currently working for.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are stories that have been shared with me of conversations between them and these employees who are in their 20 something, where they literally won't, they're bartering whether they should come into work that day, but they still want to be paid.
Yeah.
How does that work?
That'd be really nice
again,
to do that, but I can't.
Common sense and logic it's failed. So getting back to the public school system.
Yep.
45 years, nobody's going to do that. But if we don't have the quality teachers, if we don't have the teachers who are in there truly laying forward sound moral principles, principles that need to be woven in to our young people at an early age, which is why we're where we're at somewhere along the line. And I think it's about 20 years ago and really started manifesting itself about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We woke up and realized, wow, we are off the rails. What is coming out of high school, what is entering the job market right now, it's not sustainable. We can't find enough businesses to do the basics anymore and they can't, right? They're finding it hard to run their own small businesses.
Yeah.
And small businesses are the backbone of our society. And I think it is, not only the United States, but I think that's true across the world. Corporations don't make up the majority of businesses. It's small businesses, 50 employees or fewer. And so if this is what's coming out, which is uncommon sense, and this is where we're at in our educational system, where we're not even attracting, what we are attracting to the educational system is people who fully embrace this new world and this progressive idea of educating. And unfortunately, who pays for that? Well, no work equals no pay. If they can afford not to work, good for them.
It's the
I agree.
creation of the welfare state when, Johnson signed it into law. What is either FDR or Johnson that implemented all these entitlement and welfare programs. That was the creation of the welfare state. People can get a
FDR.
handout. Yeah, when they can get a handout without having to work. It's what happened during COVID. People got paid more for staying home and sitting on their rear ends than they would getting a paycheck from working. That's what they left.
How do you get them back in the workforce? Well, according to Joe, they've all come back, right?
Record government jobs. Yeah, government jobs and part-time jobs have been created.
Well, and jobs that truly are going to reward them, because that's what they're looking for. They are looking for jobs that will pay them for not showing up. And unfortunately, in most of the jobs in the United States right now, where they're really lacking, whether that be in transportation, electrical, the plumbing, the contracting services,
good skilled trade jobs are
skilled trade jobs.
They're an older generation that's dying out and moving on to retirement. There's no one behind them.
So what is going to happen? What's common sense tell us that's going to happen?
Automation, because that's kind of where everything is headed. When you run out of the workforce, you go to automation. So a bunch of robots are going to fill our potholes from now on.
And how many people does it take to monitor the automation process?
I can't imagine it'd be a large crew.
No, well, it's few. So then what do the rest of the people do? No work equals no pay. If you
it goes back to you'll own nothing and be happy. The government will be basically your basic income. The illegal immigrants are already coming into the country getting a basic universal income, and everybody else will just get paid and get off the government handout. That's pretty much what it'll be. Our taxes will be skyrocketed. Everything will be so expensive we can't live.
Kat was telling me something. I don't know if she's still with us in the chat, but Kat was saying, David Paul, do you know that there is legislation being put forth that will limit single family development in Illinois in towns or cities larger than 100,000 people? That they're moving towards multifamily for everybody. Why
Yeah.
do they want multifamily?
Well, look at back when the mobs and the mafias controlled New York City, and you look at look at there's an example of this, and Dinesh D'Souza movie, his movie Hillary's America,
Yeah.
the secret history of the Democrat Party. Look what they did in the 1900s in New York City, in these large Democrat-run cities. They packed everybody in. They greeted people at the border. They greeted people at Ellis Island. Here, vote for us. We'll get you a nice little apartment. And the apartments were trash. They were forcing people to go to the ballot lines. This is what they do. They give you a little handout in order to get your vote, and once they have their vote, they kick you to the curb. That's the never-ending cycle of the Democrat Party. It's been that way for 100+ years.
That reminds me of that reminds me of the show that I used to watch when I was a kid, Good Times. You remember that show?
I do not. I am
That
not
was
your
with
age.
JJ.
I'm not as old as you.
That was with JJ Walker. He lived in the high-rise slums.
Yeah.
Which of course they went and they tore those down, right?
Yeah.
They tore down the projects.
Yeah.
For revitalization, right?
Yeah. They want
Urban renewal.
communal living, and they want to be able to easily have access to grab the entire apartment complex to go vote. It's the easiest way to track people. You can't track everybody in a single household.
I was in Champaign yesterday, and I think the name of the place is called the Havens, and it is on the east, would be the northwest side of Champaign.
Mm-hmm.
So where all the interstate work is going on. And I was like, wow, is this a senior living facility? And no,
it's not.
It wasn't low income.
Yeah, it's income based. Yeah.
Income based Section 8 housing.
Yeah.
This is where the money is being poured in.
Yeah.
And developments are happening because, as Kat and I were discussing, what are they going to do with 30, 40, 50,000 people here in our state right now is what the number is, because now we're all border states or border communities.
Mm-hmm.
And what are they going to do with them? Where are they going to house them? It's sad to drive through Bloomington Normal and see these tent cities popping up.
Yeah.
I know there's one next to the Mission. I saw there was one in Normal. It would be Central Normal down off of 51 along the Sugar Creek, another encampment. And we have the ability and the resources to take care of I'm not saying universal income.
Right.
We have the ability to help people help themselves in a common sense approach. Unfortunately, we have basically engineered this dependency, this society where we believe that only government is the solution.
Yeah. I talked about it with Amanda a while back when we were driving through town. I don't know anybody's situation when I see these people out on the streets, looking for anybody to hand up, when they ask for money or, we'll work for money or whatever. But I came back to the central theme, with as many jobs that are available, even if it's part-time in our local communities, and there are beds to sleep on when you are in that process of getting back on your feet, whether it was bankruptcy or divorce or just poor life choices that got you where you are, or, whatever it is. I feel like there's no excuse, kind of. I don't know if it sounds harsh, but to be on the streets and be homeless, because when there's hiring signs at every retail location in Bloomington Normal saying we'll hire here, hiring now, and even if you just ask some of the shelters or some ways, like, hey, I need a ride, I need get a bus pass, I need a place to sleep so I can get back on my feet again to work. they're not going to these places for work. And all these people look like most of them are citizens. They don't look like they're from Mexico or other countries. They look like they're just
Honduras,
yeah,
or
they just
met a
look like
young
they're
man today
homeless.
from Honduras. Yes.
Yeah, and I gotta think, like, do they not have any family at all around them at all that they can contact and say, "Hey, I need a place to stay or I need something to do. Give me a little help." I can't they can't all be single and no families whatsoever.
Well, and so, this whole demographic destiny and replacement theory and where we are culturally, you're now seeing what is manifesting itself. We already knew that America was struggling when it came to mental illness. I think a lot of what we see on the streets, the homeless communities, there's no question about it. These are people uh, that have struggled in life for a plethora of reasons. Who knows? Addiction, like you said, loss of an income, loss of a spouse, um, but mental illness has become a big part of that, because in of itself, mental illness is is not regressive; it's progressive,
Mhm.
because mental illness can build upon itself. So ailments become more than just one. Um, what's the word I'm looking for? One diagnosis,
Right.
one manifestation of something, whether it's schizophrenia, whether it's some type of behavior disorder, or social disorder, whatever it might be, they build upon themselves. And especially when you're dealing with a society that believes that the only solution is to try to throw money at it, which doesn't work, as we've seen.
Clearly.
And so it's going to grow. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Alright. No, you're good. Okay, so speaking of common sense, this is your theme of your show.
Yep.
And I know you're wrapping up towards the last 10 minutes, so I'm gonna go through some common sense things for you and see if this makes sense to you.
Okay. I
Okay?
like it.
So,
Thank you.
speaking of the border issues that we've been talking about earlier, and the amount of money that you're throwing at the border, there's a list in this bill. Now, if you're not familiar, whoever's listening is not familiar with it, the Senate passed a bill and unveiled it. Well, I don't know if they haven't passed it yet, but they've unveiled their bill,
But
a
pushed it
border
to
bill.
Congress, yeah,
Yeah,
to the House. Yeah.
a national security emergency bill that only allocates about 20 billion for the southern border. And about half of that 118, 120 billion goes overseas to other countries' borders. But here's a compilation of what's in this bill. It's common sense spending. Okay, this is what they do all the time, right? Common sense spending.
Common sense.
60.06 billion to support Ukraine in its war. 20 billion to secure the U.S. southern border. 14 billion in security assistance to Israel. 10 billion in humanitarian aid for civilians in conflict zones around the world. 10 billion around the world just randomly. 4.83 billion to support key regional partners in Indo-Pacific area to deter Chinese aggression. So 4 billion in Taiwan. 2 billion to support central command operations in the Red Sea, which, the recent strikes from the Houthis. 2.33 billion for Ukrainians and other refugees displaced. 400 million for the nonprofit security grant program to help nonprofits and places of worship make security enhancements. So you're looking at a package of about 120 billion, and I don't see where any of that makes any sense because we already have a law that says you can't come across the border illegally, and the president has authority to enforce it per US code. So why are we crafting another massive spending bill for majority of it going to overseas and nothing to do with our southern border?
I let me tell you, I just received, as you started into that long list
Mhm.
that Speaker Johnson has said is dead on
Mhm.
arrival, and it
Yeah,
should be. I mean, anybody that is supporting that,
right.
literally, as you just started that, Ryan, I just received uh, a message from President Trump. You guys didn't realize it. Not only am I a delegate for President Trump, but he also sends me personal text messages. Um, me and a whole host of other people. But this just came through, and he's basically stating, rip it up, rip up the Senate immigration bill, throw it in the trash. Get rid of it. We need to stop the invasion, not surrender to the Democrats. We are done. There is no negotiation. There is no immigration reform. They believe in critical immigration theory, which replaces critical race theory. They believe in resetting the entire economy based on the logic of the left, the common sense of the left. How commonsensical is it to do what they've done? You just read through it. They're
Mhm.
giving money to everyone and anyone
Mhm.
through this bill to gain very little ground on the border.
Yeah.
It's not going to stop anybody coming across the border. In fact, I will tell you right now that if there's a candidate running out there and the immigration invasion isn't, or the illegal immigration invasion isn't number one,
Mhm.
there is nothing that matters more than that. We can always come back to the Houthis, whatever,
Mhm.
however you say them, to
Right.
Hamas,
Yeah.
to the terrorist of Iran.
Yeah.
We need to stop funding Iran, Joe. That's you.
Yeah.
That's on you. 100% on Joe Biden and his administration. The Middle East, believe me, the best thing for Israel right now is for Joe Biden to get out of there, to stop being someone that is interfering.
Yeah.
That's all this guy does, is interfere with everything.
Well, then you
But
have the guilt tripping and the pity for Ukraine. Look, I'm not all for Russia invading a country, but I
no,
I am also not for spending $1 trillion on an interest in a war that we have no part of. We don't
eh,
have really a national security interest being in Ukraine, other
no.
than being a NATO member, but they're not a NATO member. So why are we
The
there?
the most pressing issue right now in this time that we live in is what has transpired on the southern border. Let's use common sense.
Yeah.
Okay, Ryan. President Trump, whether you like him or not, you obviously know where I stand. I'm a Trump delegate, so it's pretty obvious.
Mhm.
Joe Biden came into office, and what was the first thing that he did? He basically turned around everything that Trump put in place.
Yeah.
And why did he do that? In order to set the stage for everything that we are experiencing right now.
Mhm.
He did away with all of the policies and executive orders that Trump put forward because he knew back in 2017, when he took office, was sworn in, that the biggest threat that faced the United States was not Ukraine. It wasn't Israel or the Hamas or the terrorist of Iran. It wasn't even China, even though China, the Communist Chinese
Mhm.
Party, is a threat. The
Yeah.
biggest threat that we face in the United States of America is a porous southern border. And you've heard this saying many times over, Ryan. A country without a border is not a country at all.
Mhm.
Hey, I like this from your friend and listener, Oklahoma Chicken Cam. I'm 54. I dropped out of the workforce 4 years ago. I came back into the workforce for a roofing job in Rockford 2 years ago, got shot at while roofing a building. That's why I came back to Oklahoma Farm. Amen.
Good decision.
Yeah, good. That was a wise move.
Yeah, that was
As
common sense right there.
that's common sense. That's almost as common sense as my one of my favorite, Dan Bongino. I love when he wears the shirt, "Don't get dead."
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
something to be said about that. Common sense tells us don't get dead. We
Yeah.
can't put ourselves at risk. We
Yep.
can't let our families be at risk. We have to take measures into our own hands because you know why? That's what it says in the Constitution of the United States. It isn't about the government providing security
Right.
and safety for us. That's why I believe what Governor Abbott is doing, it's the border bill, just not the U.S. border.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. But what Governor Abbott is doing is showing, he's flexing himself as the executive of the state of Texas, saying that we have rules and laws and we're going to enforce those borders.
Yep.
We're going to enforce our presence on the border. We are just not going to allow the Border Patrol, the United States Border Patrol, to allow these people to access our country, our state, specifically our state, then our country. Um, you know, it doesn't work. It's not common sense. Where it's a human crisis, it's a humanitarian crisis. It's a crisis at so many levels. The amount of human trafficking, and we've heard it over and over. The list goes on. That's what this is about. This this is so sick, and it lacks common sense.
There's a reason why I've had probably 2 or 3 episodes in a row on the border issues at a whole. You can talk to the moon and back, about it. It's such a critical time in our country's history that how can you not discuss what's happening? It is the worst crisis we're going through amongst other things that they call a crisis.
Well, and that's why I said, if you are a candidate out there, and if you're listening to me, look up who your state rep is, who your county board members are, who your state senators are, who your congressman is, who your United States senator is. Obviously, if you're in Illinois, good luck with reaching out to Ducky or Duckworth or Durbin, the two D's, the double D's,
Yep.
Ducky and Durbin.
Dirty Dick.
Good luck reaching out to them. Save your voice. Spend more time organizing.
Yeah.
Collectively coming together, finding other like-minded people, especially in Illinois. We're not one of the states, not that we are going to even get close to being one of the states that would ratify or would put in place the Convention of States, but we can get the surrounding states, Missouri, Wisconsin, Iowa, Indiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, to be a state that is a convention of states. And if you have that kind of pressure around you and controlling the commerce, ultimately, that's where we're going to be able to take back America, is when we start going on offense and taking back our economy of scale away from the Bidenomics that it currently has found itself in. It's the only way to do it. Hey, I know we're up against the end of the hour. Ryan, man, like I said, it's good to have you here. It makes the show a lot easier, and you keep me on target, especially with what the lead is. I never want to bury the lead of what we're.
Hey, if you give me a topic and give me a theme, I'll keep you in line. That's fine.
I might have to do that, Ryan, especially now that I have this new gig where, like the Oklahoma Chicken Cam man, I am, I'm offloading freight now. Why? Because, Ryan, as a conservative person, it's hard to find places to go to work for in the state of Illinois. Contrary to what J.B. Pritzker has to say, it's not an easy task. The nice thing about it is, I'll tell you right now, when you go out and you work with your hands and your body and you do labor, it's so rewarding. It truly is. And, I don't know how long God has me in this position. I know he has me there at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. In fact, I just got a text over here that says my workday starts at 6 a.m. So that means I get up at 4:30. It's the only way that I can get into the Word of God. Things first, God first. And then I walk out the rest of my day. And I think that is common sense. If you really want to truly talk about what common sense is, it's a God first living your life first and foremost for God. Anything contrary to that is strictly living your life for something other than God. And I know how well that works. It just doesn't.
Yep. Amen.
Hey, hold on, chicken, you're chicken man, you're chicken cam. Hopefully we'll primary Langford over the flying frog fart.
Yeah, he really bit the bullet on that one.
He did. Hey, as you can see, we could go much longer, an hour. Ryan, you saw it up here in the comments section. Go out. There it is. Ryan gave us his call letters or his addresses to get to the Ryan Mac show. Go out. You can hear just Ryan solo. You don't have to hear him on the DPB show, but we look forward to getting Ryan back often.
Yeah.
As I said, I need a little help here, and he does he's well-versed, and I believe, as you all know, that the best thing we can do going forward is not only to live a God first life, but to build a bench, encourage others to live accordingly. And that's finding like-minded people like Ryan, Ty, Kevin, Paul Garcia, Kat Peterson. Find other people who are willing to stretch themselves. We need more citizen journalisms, more citizen journalists, thank you, and more citizen journalism.
Yep.
We need more people involved in this process. It's not going to happen if we turn and decide that we're so starstruck by a certain candidate or a certain person that's in government. You know what? I don't even
Yep.
get starstruck by my good friend Darren Bailey. You know
Yeah.
why? Because he's such a flawed human being, and he knows that I'm a flawed human being. So
Yeah.
together, we're just trying to find common sense solutions to what works. And when you're with a farmer who farms like Darren does, it's about as common sense as it gets. Hey, once again, I thank you. As always, I bid you farewell for now until Thursday. We will be back Thursday live from 4 to 5 on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, and Facebook. And I look forward to seeing you then. It will be voting season on Thursday, the first day of voting season, the 40-day season. It's kind of like Jesus when he is in the desert. It was kind of
40
like
days.
Noah
Yeah.
lost at sea or lost in the flood for 40 days. That's what's ahead of us. So until then, as I always say, I love you. God loves you more. Keep in the fight. Don't give up. We'll see you on Thursday.